National Assembly members mount pressure on President Buhari to sign Electoral Act Bill 2018. Cholera outbreak kills 15 in KATSINA. In international news, China's President Xi Jinping promotes Beijing's initiative to help build infrastructure in Africa. And in sports, magnetic resonance imaging testing reduces number of Nigerian under-17 players to 18 as age scandal hits competition.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Nigeria's National Assembly members are already mounting pressure on President Muhammadu Buhari to sign the Electoral Act Bill 2018. They say this will justify the more than 100 billion naira the Joint Committee on Electoral Matters has just recommended as the 2019 polls budget. The lawmakers say if the bill was not signed, there would be no way INEC could spend the 143 billion naira. More of the budget is for the procurement of election equipment. President Buhari has accused the Nigerian media organizations of bias in reporting conflicts in the country during an interactive meeting with the Nigerian community in China. The president said while security agencies were doing their best to fight insurgency and make the country safe for all, the Nigerian media should complement the effort through objective reporting. He said it was disappointing that members of the Nigerian press do not make enough efforts to study the historical antecedents of issues that are creating national problems. Meanwhile, President Buhari also said he's not afraid of free and fair elections next year. APC members opposed to the direct primaries idea announced by the National Working Committee have started talking to state chairmen to resist the moves to force the method on the state. Some party bigwigs have met to fashion out ways to tackle the decision. The National Working Committee has urged aggrieved members to use appropriate channels to register their grievances. Reports say the governors have opted for indirect primaries, going against the party's direct primaries declaration. Southeast governors have cried out over what they call the deplorable state of the Akanu Ibiam International Airport in Enugu State. They want an urgent intervention of the federal government in order to forestall any disaster. The governors are asking the Minister of State for Aviation to visit the airport to assess the runway lights and the tarmac so that they can properly address the problems. The governors say the airport is not safe. Away from politics, sadly 15 persons have been confirmed dead from cholera outbreak in Charanchi local government area of Katsina State. Chairman of the Transmission Committee of the Council, Yusuf Rada, says Charanchi Town, Malali and Bonye are the affected areas. Rada says 24 persons are currently receiving medical treatment for the same ailments in healthcare centers and that the council had already sent a team of medical experts to the areas. The Niger State Emergency Management Agency Director Relief, Garba Salisu, has confirmed that 14 persons have died because of flooding in different parts of the state. Salisu said the agency had engaged the services of 200 local divers in affected communities for rescue operations to complement the efforts of the agency's rescue units. He has appealed to residents to reduce flooding by desisting from building on waterways and not indiscriminately dump refuse. Trading activities on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange finished the last 2 months on a negative side, with a record of 1 trillion naira losses to close at 12 trillion naira in market capitalization. Experts say the rising insecurity and tension ahead of 2019 elections have taken a toll on the market. They believe these factors will further worsen the situation for the rest of the year. Activities in August accounted for the highest losses recorded. Further checks also showed the banking stocks quoted on both the main and premium boards led the losses, accounting for 37% of the overall drop. The Central Bank of Nigeria said it had returned 65 billion naira excess charges deducted from bank customers' accounts in 7 years. The Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria has called on the Bank Customers Association of Nigeria to demand service charter from banks to guide members of the public when applying for bank services. Acting Director, Consumer Protection Department T.Y. Ahmed said between 2012 and 2018, the CBN has returned more than 65 billion naira. The bank says some customers have received as much as 3 billion naira. Here's some infrastructure news. Transportation Minister Rotimi Amechi has assured Nigerians that the Lagos-Ibadan Railway will be ready by December. Amechi said the earthwork, which is the most important part of the project, has attained 90%, stretching from Ebute-Metta in Lagos to Abeokuta in Ogun State. The Nigeria Conservation Foundation, NCF, says Nigeria has lost 96% of its forests because of forestation. Director General Murtala Aminu Kano said the country currently has only 4% of its original forest cover and that NCF was exploring ways of increasing the country's vegetation to about 25% in the next 30 years. He has called for more trees to be planted and for no trees to be felled. One of the most wanted suspected armed robbers and cultists in the Ejigbo area of Lagos State, Segun Kazim, also known as No Case, has been arrested over the weekend by armed detectives in Mushin, Lagos. The police had earlier arrested one Femi Kazim, a close ally of Segun Kazim, who had confessed to No Case's hideout. A community leader says Segun Kazim had defied police arrest on many occasions and the notable personalities had bailed him out each time. The entire Ejigbo community was jubilating after his arrest. Coming up, news around Africa, and later, the Forum on China and Africa Cooperation opens in Beijing. Leaders get together to cement the already strong relationships between them.
You are watching ANN.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Adam, go and bring us your husband. Okay, hello baby.
We're in this together, okay? Can you hear me? Keep coming forward.
Wait, stop.
You okay, lean to your right. Keep walking down. Keep walking to the left. Yes.
You're almost here.
Keep going.
You are here. Wow, you did it.
I'm just so glad I didn't have to use my cane to do this.
And I am so glad no other man got you before me. Let me be your eyes.
We will never stop working to give you a network you can rely on so you can enjoy life's special moments. MTN, everywhere you go.
Welcome back to ANN News. So much is happening today across Africa. Let's check on some of them, especially in Libya, where 2 persons have been killed and 7 others, including 2 children, wounded in a rocket explosion that hit Al-Fala camp for displaced persons in Libya's capital, Tripoli, on Sunday. Heavy fighting among different rival armed groups has continued in the country for a week now. On Saturday, rockets hit a hotel in central Tripoli and a fuel depot south of the capital. Meanwhile, some 400 prisoners escaped from a jail in Tripoli as violence raged nearby. An official said the inmates forced open the doors of the Ain Zara prison on Sunday, and guards were unable to stop them. Western powers have condemned the Libyan violence. The United States, France, Italy have warned the armed groups which undermined Libyan stability would be made accountable. The World Health Organization says efforts to halt an outbreak of the deadly Ebola virus in Democratic Republic of the Congo appear to be working, although substantial risks remain. The outbreak has so far killed 77 persons among 116 cases in Congo's North Kivu and Ituri provinces. 15 of the cases were health workers. MAB 114 and 4 experimental treatments were approved for use in the latest Ebola outbreak. A previous outbreak this year was swiftly stopped despite the remote location and difficult terrain. The latest outbreak presents a different challenge occurring in a more densely populated area with dozens of armed groups. Some areas are off limits to health workers due to security risk, making it more difficult to ring-fence each Ebola case by vaccinating all the patients' contact. At least 6 persons were killed when a suicide car bomb struck a local government office in central Mogadishu, destroying the building and a Quranic school on Sunday. Islamic militant group Al-Shabaab said it was behind the attack, which also blew off the roof of a mosque and damaged houses nearby. According to police officer Mohammed Hussein, at least 6 persons had been killed, including soldiers, civilians, the suicide bomber, and a dozen injured. Somalia has been rocked by lawlessness and violence since 17 years ago. Islamic group Al-Shabaab is fighting to dislodge a Western-backed government protected by African Union-mandated peacekeepers. South Africa's main white solidarity union says it will begin a strike on Monday at petrochemicals firm Sahol over a share ownership scheme offered exclusively to black staff. Under black economic empowerment rules, South African companies are required to meet quotas on black ownership, employment and procurement as part of a drive to reverse decades of exclusion under apartheid. The Solidarity said it would embark on the strike action due to the company's new staff share scheme, excluding white employees, which it called blatant discrimination against loyal Sasol employees. The union said in a statement it intends to switch off a different section of Sasol each day by means of well-laid and strategic plans. Sasol said it was open for engagement with the union and have activated contingency measures to minimize potential disruption to operations. Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has ratified a law granting authorities the right to monitor social media users in the country as part of tightening internet controls. Under this law, the state's Supreme Council for Media Regulations will have the power to place people with more than 5,000 followers on social media or with a personal blog or website under supervision and apply sanctions. This is one of a series of measures the right groups say are aimed at curbing freedom of expression online. Authorities have insisted they are needed to help tackle instability and terrorism in the country. But domestic and international rights activists still regularly accuse the government of seeking to crush dissent by arresting critics and bloggers and blocking news sites. Chadian forces have destroyed rebel positions around Taibesti, a town in the far north of the Libyan border. Security sources say the bombardment targeted a site between the Miski and Yabibal localities after weeks of monitoring rebel movement. Local sources say a dozen people were injured in the operation, but armed forces are yet to comment. Security Minister Ahmad Mohamed Bachin said the crackdown was designed to deal with rebels opposed to President Idris Deby. Ethiopian Airlines and the government of Chad have signed an agreement to launch Chad's new national carrier next month. Officials said Ethiopia's state-owned flag carrier is in talks with a number of African states to acquire stakes and manage operations, a strategy aimed at gaining a competitive advantage against rivals such as those in the Gulf. Ethiopian Airlines is ranked by the International Air Transport Association as the largest carrier in Africa by revenue and profit, outpacing regional competitors Kenya Airways and South African Airways. The head of Chad's Civil Aviation Authority, Mohamed Adjan, said on Friday the new company will be named to Chadia Airlines, with the government owning 51% and Ethiopian Airlines the rest. Stay with us, CNN News will be back with a coverage of the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation after this break.
MTN gives 2,000% bonus for reactivating your MTN SIM. That's right. If you haven't used your MTN SIM for 45 days or more, recharge now and get 2,000% bonus. That's right, 2,000% bonus for your first recharge of every month.
While the world sleeps, CNN News stays awake. News takes no time off. We are awake so you can sleep. We report the stories that keep you up to date, events that affect your day, your week, month, and experiences. We scour the world, bringing it to your living room. Watch CNN News in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is CNN News. We'll spend time now to visit Beijing, China, to update you on a special program going on there. Many African leaders are gathered in China's capital for this year's Forum on China-African Cooperation. This year's event is to underscore the gains already made between China and Africa and to chart a course to further cement those solid friendships. CNN's Rotimi Akintunde reports.
The forum begins on Monday and runs for 2 days. When it ends, participants expect communiques that would point to building a closer China-Africa community with a shared future and set a new path for a higher level of China-Africa cooperation that would encourage more people-to-people exchanges.
History follows its own rules and logic, with similar fates in the past and a common mission. China and Africa have extended sympathy to and helped each other throughout all the years. Together, we have embarked on a distinctive path of win-win cooperation.
The Forum on China-Africa Cooperation was established 18 years ago, and it has actually achieved substantial and tangible results in the areas of trade and investments. Trade volume has reached $170 billion last year. It was only $10 billion 10 years ago.
China has followed the principle of sincerity, real results, amity, and good faith, and the principle of pursuing the greater good and shared interests. China has stood together with African countries. Together, we have worked in unity and forged ahead.
African leaders are expected to sign bilateral deals not just with the government of China, but with private companies that would boost the continent's economy and provide jobs for millions of its citizens. Rotimi Akintunde, CNN News.
What else should Africa expect to gain from this gathering in Beijing? Chinese former Vice Commerce Minister was optimistic in predicting reaching $300 billion in trade volume between China and Africa by 2020. That may be a little bit far-fetched, but the former minister says it is possible. And as Lucy Adeyamin looks at what impact this cooperation could have on Africa's industrial development.
The goals being set include strengthened pragmatic cooperation between the two sides. In the near future, China-funded industrial parks are expected to cover the entire industrial system. Chinese tech companies are also expected to set up all over Africa. China and Africa are also expected to enter into joint agricultural ventures that are expected to revolutionize African agricultural industries. Zambia is already reaping some benefits from this friendship.
I want to continue focusing on infrastructure development. I want us looking forward to attracting Chinese investment also to Kenya. But I'm also keen to see how we can begin working on reducing our trade deficit.
Late last month, a Chinese mining firm, Non-Ferrous China Africa, launched production work for its greenfield project in Chambishi town in Zambia's Copperbelt province. Zambian President Edgar Lungu called the project an example of serious investment. Ethiopia has its own record of benefits as well. A Chinese show maker, Huanjian, has set up 2 local factories, creating 8,000 jobs for Ethiopians. More concrete projects are expected to be launched during this forum, on the sidelines of which there is the 6th China-Africa Business Forum taking place in Beijing as well. Lucy Adeyemi, ANN News.
Coming up, sports, please stay with us.
If you know fit go internet or follow for Twitter, you know fit snap photo send or get it photo send. Now because you dey use Palasa, your phone no dey answer. See me see wahala. My brother, go get smartphone, yeah. Drop that Palasa phone. Phone wey no go for your hand, yeah. Drop that Palasa phone. Phone wey no fit take selfie. Drop that Palasa phone. No be correct phone, yeah. Drop that Palasa phone.
Upgrade to a smartphone today and get double data for 6 months on any MTN data bundle you buy. Simply purchase a smartphone from any store, anywhere in Nigeria, or bring your current smartphone from any network. Insert your MTN SIM card to start enjoying your double data bonus. Offer is open to all new and existing MTN subscribers. Join the largest smartphone movement today.
Make it not for your hand,
While the world sleeps, ANN News stays awake. News takes no time off. We are awake so you can sleep. We report the stories that keep you up to date, events that affect your day, your week, month, and experiences. We scour the world, bringing it to your living room. Watch ANN News in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In sport, technology magnetic resonance imaging scan has disqualified 6 of Nigerian under-17 football players, ruling they were older than 17 years stipulated for the competition. Nigeria will now make do with only 18 players at the African Under-17 Nations Cup qualifier. Benin Republic was kicked out of the competition altogether because most of its players are overaged. Nigeria coach Manu Garba had denied that some of his boys were older than the age limit, saying they passed the MRI scan in Abuja when it was reported 15 of the 40 players he had in camp failed the test. Meanwhile, Nigeria will begin their campaign in the competition, playing Niger Republic on Monday in Burkina Faso. FIFA 90-day ban on former Ghana Football Association President Kwesi Nyantakyi will elapse this week. Nyantakyi was banned from all football-related activities following allegations of breaching the code of ethics of the football governing body. Nyantakyi was seen in a video in early June, allegedly suggesting lucrative deals to an undercover journalist posing as an investor and asking him to pay $11 million to help grease the palms of key government officials to secure contracts. The FIFA ban started more than 2 months ago and will expire on Saturday to make way for FIFA's final decision on the former CAF first vice president. That's ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on this and other stories, visit our website, annafrica.net. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a great evening.